All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD1111 database-driven web development course, I've been creating a series of video presentations. They're all based off of the PDFs created by Mr. Flavio Copes under his Valley of Code website. So far, I've gone through and I'm doing client-side development. So I have created 5 presentations for HTML, 10 I believe it was for CSS, and this is about the third one I think that I'm doing right now for JavaScript. When we get done, we'll switch into the server side and go over his Node handbook and React. In addition, what I've kind of been melding, or whatever you want to call it, in with these presentations, and what I'm going to talk about now are a series of articles. And now I want to talk about this 20 array methods every developer should know. So again, some of this will be very much duplicative of what I talked about earlier, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So the first one is for each. For each is a type of for loop. It's designed to work with arrays. So here's an example. I think I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. Well, I'm looking at here. There's the for each. All right. Now, I don't want to go through these examples per se. I want to go through and take a look at the test and the output. All right. So what they're doing in here is they're printing out numbers. That's no big things. But I want to hit on a couple of these that are especially important. The first one being map. All right. And again, when you map, you are converting an array into an array. What does that mean? Typically, when you map or when you filter, what you end up doing is you end up going in and making an array out of an array. Well, what you can do then when you do this is, let's assume, for example, that I had an array, and that array had in it, let's say, first name, last name, and the department somebody worked for. And let's say all I wanted to do is I wanted a new array with just the first name and last name. Well, I could use map to do that. I could also use, there's also other methods that we could use to do that. Every, and we talked about this one before, with every, what that means is every single thing that you're checking must be true. So it'll iterate through an array, and as long as everything meets the criteria you've set up, it'll return true. All right. But if it finds false, basically I don't know if it stops or what, but so the only way for it to succeed is if everything that you're checking is true. Now, kind of the, not reverse, but kind of the converse, I guess, of that is sum, which, as it says right here, what sum does is it tests to see if at least one element in the array meets the criteria that you're looking for. All right. So again, imagine that I wanted to go through a list of grades, and I wanted to find out if anyone had failed. And let's say that failure is 60. So I could look through there, and I wouldn't want to run every on there. You wouldn't think every student would fail, but if I want to know if a student or students failed, I could do the sum, S-O-M-E, as an example. Filter, I mentioned this before. All right. That with filter and map, they're both kind of at least used in the same way. But when you think of filter, I think of creating an array based off of an array. So I might want something that just meets some criteria. Going back to what I talked about before, if I've got a list of grades, maybe I've got a first name, a last name, and a letter, and a number grade. All right. Maybe all I want in there is I want to iterate through that array and I want to find out just the first name, last name, and number grade for people who got an A. Or maybe I want to go and create series of arrays, an array of people with A's, an array of people with B's, an array of people with C's, and maybe an array of people that didn't pass. All right, and I could do something like that. Reduce, it says here it's a little more complicated, and it's kind of a neat function. So reduce is kind of interesting if I wanted to go in and find out, let's assume that I gave a test. Let's assume I have 12 students. And I give a test for 100 that's worth 100 points. If everybody got 100 on it, all right, if everybody got 100 on it, it would be 1,200 points, right? 100 times 12. But probably not everybody will get 100%. If I wanted to find out how many total points were earned out of the 1,200, I could use reduce, where I would basically iterate through, and I'd have to start with some kind of a beginning value, all right? And once I did that, I could just keep adding to it all the ones that met that criteria. Okay. This reduce right I've never used. It says it applies a function against an accumulator and each value of the array and reduces it to a single value. Now, as I'm looking through this, this is, again, I realize, very repetitive. And you're like, why aren't you going through this? Why aren't you going through this? I don't like the examples that are in here. All right. I think they're much more difficult than we need to show these concepts. All right. Find returns the first element in the provided array that satisfies your criteria. Find index, rather than returning the element, it returns the index of the element. Index of returns the first index where an element can be found in an array, and if it's not there, it returns -1. Last index turns the last one that it finds. So index of returns the first instance, the index of the first instance, last index of returns the index of the last index. And with both of them, if it doesn't find anything that meets the criteria, it returns -1. Includes, as it says, determines whether an array includes a certain value among its entries, returning true or false as appropriate. All right. The includes method, as it says, will search how to find a value to find starting from an index. I think what I am going to do, not this second, but I think that what I am going to do is, we're almost finished with this, is I have shown you this in the past before, so I've got to find it. No idea where it is, but I know it's here. Let's do this, and we will do this, and I'm going to search for array fun. Now, I may rue the fact that I'm saying this right now, but what I'm going to attempt to do is, I have written an array function a couple times, or an array program, a couple of them. Okay, why isn't it taking that? It isn't though. There we go. So here's array fun. I don't know if this is going to be it or not, but let's just quickly check this. So I'm going to copy that there and look. That's definitely not it. Try this one here. Let's see. This is not what I'm looking for. So I've got an array fun console here, but one of these, and I will find it. I have written array programs twice. So array fun, let's see what's in there. All right, I'll grab these two. So I'm going to grab this one. I'll find it. I'm going to grab and do 2 array programs. I'm going to try to replace the way I've done them with more of the new ES5, ES6 functions. I think that'll be more helpful. All right, so let's finish this one up. Sorry about that. All right. Push, as it says, adds 1 or more elements to the end of a current array. Pop removes the last element from an array. Unshift adds an element to the beginning of an array, and shift will remove the first element from an array. Reverse reverses an array. Okay. Fill, as it says, changes all the elements in an array to a static value from a start index. Okay. Concat can be used like spread, where it'll basically combine or merge things together. And join, as it says, returns a new string. So we don't have everything in here. This was not nearly as good an article as I thought it was. So what I'm going to do is, probably it's a little early. It is. It's 11 minutes. But I'm going to stop right now. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just pause. And then I'm going to go back and try to rewrite some stuff right before your very eyes. Let me pause to see if I can find it. All right, so I think I found the one I'm looking for here. And let me get rid of that. And this doesn't look like much. There's just an array example here. And you click Run Program. It shows the array in the original order. And then it's got a thing in here where you can you do a 1 to generate a new array, do a 2 to display the array in original order, do a 3 to display the array in ascending order, do a 4 to put it in descending order, do a 5 to get the smallest array element, so that, well, let's see, let's do a 3. So the smallest should be 3 and the largest should be 82. 3 and 82. Here we're summing all the array elements, so that's this. And here we're doing, I think it's the average. All right, so that'll work. Now, maybe I'll change this around a little, I don't know. So 0 will exit the program. There we go. All right, so let's just take a quick look. I made a copy of it, so there's not much of an interface, as you can see here. All right, so when we view the page source, this is the whole thing. There is a CSS file in here, and all I did was I made the button, I gave it a radius, and I gave the body a color and a font. So there's really virtually nothing in here. Okay. All right, so that's what it looks like now. And get rid of that. So let's bring up the JavaScript. In fact, let's bring this whole thing up here. It's called Array01B. I don't know why, but it is. I'm going to change the name of that to, I'm going to call it ES Array, so I can try to use some of the newer features. Okay, so as I've done before, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do a CD ... And I'm going to do a CD to, what did we just say we call that again? ES Array. And I'm going to do a code dot. All right, so I'm going to bring up a new version of VS Code. And the file that I'm looking at is going to be this ArrayFun file. ArrayFun.js. Comments, etc. That's all fine and dandy. I'm not worried about any of that stuff. All right, so what do we have here? We've got an array. We're give it a constant size, and we're creating a new array. We're actually creating 2 of them. They're both got 25 values in there. Choice, as it says, this copy of that is actually wrong. That goes here. So that'll be the copy of the original array there. This sum will be the sum of all the array elements. This choice will be the menu choice made. I think that's 0 through 8. The average will be the sum divided by the array length. Okay, that's fine. So let's jump over to here and take a look at what we've got. So we've got this create new array, all right, and then display this, show array, etc. So this is showing the menu. All right, so we're calling create array, which is first, where is it? We're calling create new array. That should create the new array, and that should display it. And this, while one, this is just an infinite loop that says selection equals show menu. So we're telling it to run this over and over again, this show menu. These are the messages. Enter a 0 to exit, a 1 for 25, etc. You can read all that. All right. Here, make menu choice. Here, we want to validate menu choice is between 0 and 8. And as long as if we didn't put a value in between 0 and 8, we're calling show menu again. If we did this, valid menu choice inputted. Okay, so we're going to call the correct method. So if it's a 0, we've got to create a new array, we've got a display array, we've got to sort ascending and descending, we've got to display the smallest element, a display the largest element, a display the sum, and a display the average. Okay, I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit nicer. I don't know if I can or not, but we're going to try here. All right. So this is going to generate 100 random numbers between 1 and 100, and it'll fill up all 25 of these array locations. As we're filling that up, we're going to copy the number that was created. This is our original we want to keep, so we can keep the original order. This will be the copy that we'll work with. Okay? So display that is no big thing. We're just going to display it. Now the sort ascending. All right, probably that's the best way to do it. In fact, I don't even know if I need to do it like that. So let's go in here and we'll check this. How to sort an array, a JavaScript array in ascending order. Says I lost my internet connection. Okay, so it says to use the sort method. How do you sort an array in JavaScript? How do you sort in ascending or descending order? JavaScript array sort method. More examples. And that's pretty much what I did, was the A minus B or the B minus A. All right. So we can call the sort method and either pass it A minus B, this is what you do for numeric, or for ascending, and that's what you do for, that's numeric ascending, and that's numeric descending. So not much I can add there. Let's see, here we've got math.min. I guess I did use some of this. So look at this. I'm using math.min, and I'm using the spread operator to tell it to search the entire copy number array and give me the smallest value that's in there. So I'm using a built-in pre-ES6 function, that being math.min, and I'm using that along with the spread operator. For the largest, we're doing the same thing, but rather than calling math.min, we're calling math.max. Okay? For the sum, again, totally legit to do it this way and just have a for loop in there. That works just fine. It worked just fine. But I redid this using the accumulator function. Okay? So sum, which was initialized to 0 there, is equal to our array dot reduce. We're telling it to start with the accumulator and add the current value to it every time by doing accumulator plus current. All right? So if f, we want to just say the sum is, all right, and I really didn't have to, I made more work out of this than I had to do, because notice this that says sum and this that says average, to my knowledge. Oh, we just did it like this. Okay, that's fine. This said add them all up, and then when you get done, divide by the array length. Okay, so basically there is nothing else to show you there. I am going to grab this copy and I'm going to do a file save all. We will go over this in class so you can see it. All right, so that's 22 minutes in, which I think is enough. When I come back, exit from here. When I come back, what I'm going to do is jump back into here, and we're going to talk about strings. All right. And after we talk about strings, we're going to look at another one of these things, and that is the cheat sheet for the string methods. All right. So I will be back with that shortly.